Gentleman for Calgary Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The demand to attend post-secondary has always been high in Calgary, but with the downturn in the price of oil, the need is greater to help diversify our economy. There is a strong criticism that for many years, Calgary did not receive adequate funding for post-secondaries compared to regions like Edmonton. So to the Minister of Advanced Education, what is being done to ensure funding to post-secondaries is fair and equitable?
Honourable Minister of Advanced Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for his questions. We know that the recession was a difficult period for Calgarians and that many sought to upgrade their skills during that time. That's why our government has been proud to increase funding for our universities and colleges every year that we've been in government. These increases are ensuring that post-secondary education remains accessible and affordable, and without this funding, students would have been left out in the cold with crumbling classrooms and sky-high tuition. If the Conservatives ever get the chance, they'll cut post-secondary funding sharply just to give tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires and make post-secondary education out of reach for many Alberta families.
Thank you. Given that past Conservative governments generally provided roller coaster funding that was disruptive to student life and that semesters do not resolve around a fiscal calendar like governments do, what are you doing to provide stable, predictable funding?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you again to the member for that question. We've heard from students that being able to plan ahead for costs is just as important as the tuition freeze has been. And as I stated previously, we've been proud to increase funding every year. Our increases have meant a 2% increase to the operating grant of every university and college, keeping pace with cost growth and protecting equality. In Budget 2018, we were also proud to provide backfill funding to compensate for the tuition freeze on top of the 2% increases to the operating grants. This has meant an additional $100 million in operating funding just in Calgary alone. This funding has been clear and consistent, making it easier for both of our institutions,
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that we hear concerns related to the equity of funding to certain universities, and given that there are concerns about post-secondary universities' performance measures, to the same minister, what is being done to ensure that post-secondaries perform properly with our valued tax dollars?
Honourable Minister.
Thanks again, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member for that very insightful question. We've seen the impact of not funding schools properly, and students and institutions are still suffering from the cuts of the past. Our government has been clear that we expect that the funding we provide is being best used to the benefit of students and in keeping their education affordable. I've been meeting with students, staff, and the post-secondary boards regularly, and we will continue working with everyone in the post-secondary sector to ensure that this is exactly what happens. We know that stable and predictable funding is so important to our post-secondary institutions and our students,
Thank you,
and that's
Honourable
exactly
Minister.
what